it's Amanda here from Lolli Lulu Crafts, and today I have for you the next silhouette seminar. And last month we had a look at a single layered cut and we did a lovely little ballerina. And I wanted to do something that would take your cutting and your silhouette use just a little bit further, but still making use of a cut that is a single layer. So I thought that it would be interesting to actually have a look at the print and cut feature. And don't panic, it really is a simple thing to do. It isn't difficult at all. And if it's not your thing, then you don't have to use it, but I think it does come in quite handy for a lot of things. If you've got CDs, if you've got digital images, if you've got digi stamps, all sorts of things that you could make use of your print and cut for, and it saves you so much work, decoupage, all sorts. So in front of you today you can see I've got a design laid out for a card that's I've used some digital images from the Knitwits Grandma's Pantry, and this is similar to how I used to do with my Gypsy. I used to just plan my card on the screen, as it were, and this isn't anything you need to do. This is just for the purposes of my design, so I was just showing you roughly where I was going, and it probably looks a big fat mess. Now what you're going to do is, and what we're going to do today, is we're going to pick one image and we're going to just work with that, and we're going to show you how to use that image and make it into a really easy print and cut. I'm going to do actually the same thing on a second image, but there's an area to it where there's a little loop, so a little landlocked area, and I just want to show you just how to handle that as well, just so it's just a slight variation on the main theme. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to show you how to do a regular print and cut image. So we're going to use an image that is simple. So for example, this little button. Now the little button is nice and dark. It's going to be nice and easy to grab hold of, so because there's no light colours. Now the problem with the print and cut is the pale colours, and this is I think where people get really hung up on it, and it gets them upset and worried because they don't understand why it's not working when they seem to be doing everything right. And I think most of the time you will find that's because it's a light area and it just simply can't recognise that. You won't find it with a scan and cut. You have the same problem with all these machines. They cannot distinguish when the image starts and the page stops in order to create that cut line for you. So you need to do something prior to bringing it into your silhouette software if you've got a pale image. However, on your regular images, such as this one where you've got a dark image or a non-pale image, I mean it's got a nice distinct edge to it all the way around, this is a nice simple procedure. So we're going to take a new page. Whoops, I'm just going to take my button and I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to go to my new page and I'm going to paste my button onto there. So it's up here at the top here, and I'm just going to zoom in so we can see nice and clearly. So when we do our print and cut, it's very, very simple. All we're going to do is say we're going to find our image. If we're happy that it's an image that doesn't need any pre-work, such as this one, we're going to then click on our trace window, which is just up there. We're then going to click this button here, select trace area. This will bring up a little crosshair, so you're then going to drag and drop using your mouse, pulling that box around your image. As you release, it will bring up like this yellow. Now what you want is the yellow edge of the yellow, so this edge here and even this inside edge, these edges are where the cut lines will be put when you click on the trace to change this trace into a cut line. However, you have options, so you could trace just the outer edge, and if that's the case you don't need to worry about trying to fill all this in. Don't get hung up on that. If all you want to do, as in this button, is trace that outer edge and you don't want to cut anything out, you just want to cut around your little button or whatever it is that's a nice simple cut like this, then that's all you need to worry about. You don't need to think about, is this filled in? You just need to make sure that this outer line is nice and crisp. The other option is regular trace. This regular trace would cut around the outside edge, and any other edge of yellow that it sees, it will create a cut line around. So to be honest, that's probably I probably mostly use trace outer edge. This one I never use. Basically, it just traces it and then it removes your images off to one side. I've never used it ever. Now, I've gone through these in a previous video, and so I won't go into the detail of exactly what each of these means. Basically, you just need to move them about in order to make the yellow be filled in. I will link that other video below this one in the blog post, so it will explain exactly what these mean in detail, the technical side of it. To be honest, you don't really need to know necessarily, you know, that this does it because it's a dark pixel and this, that and the other, and it does it from the inside out and then from the outside in and all of that. But I went into it because people were asking. So usually you are going to be using the high pass filter, and that's what you're going to be moving. As you can see, as soon as I move it up, I get the yellow is pretty much filling in. You might then want to add in and try it. If it works, you know, you can do it. Now, I'm assuming at this point we want to fill this all in. We don't. At this point here, we've already done enough. If we're doing just tracing the outside edge, that's all we need to do. However, if you wanted to fill it in more, you could use the low pass filter, and you can keep using these sliders till you're happy that it's more filled in. Your threshold button is another one that you can use. So you've got all these buttons that you can have a play around with and just see what you get from that. So this was what we had when we first put our trace on without doing anything to these buttons. Now I think in this instance we are almost there. So we're just going to move that up a little bit, and you can see how we've just got that edge now. So then we're going to, it's pretty much, I think, solid all the way around on that outside edge. So I think if we click trace outer edge, we will have, and we do, a perfect area that would cut around our button. And let me just zoom you in so you can see it was a bit of an unfortunate colour that I picked there, red button, because you can't quite see the cut line. And that's your simple cut. Now looking at a more complicated image, our little flower pot here. Now when we do our flower pot, because it's white, the trace will not pick it up. It just doesn't recognise it. So for these images we need to do something first, and that is to make it something, a colour that the trace in the silhouette can see and distinguish between the background. So all I've done is I've opened up the image in my Photoshop program. Now any photo editing software that you have, most computers have a photo editing software, that even a basic one that comes with the machine or that you can download, I'm sure. Most people have something on their computer. You open it up, and then all you're going to do is use your fill button, and you're going to use black, and you're going to use this little fill bucket, paint bucket thing, and you're going to fill in till you have a solid edge. We're not worried about the inside, so that little bit in the flower, you don't need to worry about that unless you're planning on doing it differently. So you want to keep going until this is all filled in and you've got a black edge. You're going to then save that, and then we're going to import it into our software. So to import into your software, you're just going to click, and it's going to be import to library, and then you'll find that file, and it will put that file into your library, into the bit that says my own designs, and here you can see my flower image here. So then we're going to go back to the page that has our flower on it, because what I've done is I've taken my design and I've separated all the images, the elements up, ready to print and cut. So I'm going to take each element and trace, and so I'm going to click on my flower. And what happens is when you highlight this image and then you click on another image, it will automatically replace it to the same size. So you don't have to therefore try and fiddle around with the sizing. You can just click on it, and then I'm going to put it like this because I like to see. You've highlighted your image. Let me show you what would happen if you don't. You'd click on this, and it puts it in huge. So you'd have to resize it. You'd have to then click on this, find the size, click on that, resize it. So we won't want to do that. That's far too much like hard work. So if you just click on this and then click on that, it just pops it straight into that little box that you've already created. It's there, ready to go. So it's nice and simple and easy. It's at the size that you've already determined that you want it to be. So then we're going to go to our trace window as we did before. We're going to select trace area, and we're just going to go around our little box here, and you can see that we need to do nothing else. It's such a crisp and distinct line that because we're only doing outer edge, we don't need this all to be coloured in yellow. It's not important to us. We're only doing the outer edge, so that is perfect. We don't need to touch any of these buttons. It's already done enough. We just click trace outer edge, and we've got our perfect correct cut line. Delete this one, click on this one, go back to our library here, find the original image, so making sure this is highlighted, so exactly the same as we did just now with the dark image, putting in the silhouette over this. We're going to do the same now. We're going to bring this into our cut. So we're going to click on it, and it's put our flower canister into our cut line. And then all you need to do is do that and group it together, and then you've got the image and the cut line as one. And this is a really good one for you to be able to see that that cut line is all the way around the edge. Now the next thing that I would say to you is that having done all this work, you don't want to lose that and have to do it again. So I would definitely copy and paste it into this page here, and then all you want to do is do save as and save to library. Now I've already done this, and what you'll see, what happens is it comes over into here as an individual image, and you can see I've got that on a couple of them here now. And all you need to do is then next time you want an image that you've already done the cut line and you've done it, so for example this little giraffe that I've got here, I just double click on it as if it's a normal cut image, and it's already got the cut line done, it's already got the image there. I can resize it, I can do anything I want with it, I can flip it, you know, I can still do all of those things, and the cut line is there. I've never got to do it again. And by putting it and saving it into your library, that gives you the ability to move it around. And also you can see it, you know, you're going to keep looking at it, you're going to see it and you're going to use it. Whereas I think if you saved it just as a file in your silhouette folders on your computer, you're not going to remember, and you're going to think, oh, which folder had that one in it? And you know, it's much simpler to do it like this. You can add it onto a different page, you know, so it just makes it easier for you. Now suppose you did want to cut that loop out, all you need to do is keep playing with these three. Threshold's quite often a good one, and that's basically, threshold is the button that says, well, okay, what kind of, you know, do you really want me to do the very lightest images, pixels as well? And you're going, yeah, I really do. I really, really want you to do all the light ones. So we're just going to fill that in till all those little dots go on here. And as I say, I'm using the threshold. We could try the high pass filter as well if you wanted, and even some of the low pass. But usually I find the threshold is a good one for this sort of thing. But it is just a case of playing until all those little gaps go. We've got rid of most of the dots, but we've probably just got a tiny bit of the yellow up there, so we'll probably get a small bit of trace up there, but it's not anything to worry about. So we're going to click trace, which is both outer edge and inner edge, and this will go around the edge, and it will also go inside our little loop here. And it appears that we were lucky that we didn't get anything on the inside of our little mitt here. We did, however, get a piece there, so all you need to do for that is we'll zoom in so you can see nice and clearly. It's really easy to remove. If you've got the deluxe edition, you could use the eraser and you can just erase it. If you don't have the designer edition, I should say, if you don't have that, then all you need to do is, go back to that, is double click, till you get the little points up. Then when you get that funny little arrow come up, right click, delete point, right click, delete point, right click, delete point, until you get rid of all of them, and it will just delete it that way. And so it's nice and simple to do. Obviously, if you've got the designer edition, as I say, you can easily just use the eraser, so there's no problem there. So that's another element done. So I'm gonna go off now, and I'm gonna darken up the ones that need darkening, and I'm gonna trace around them all, and then I will come back to you when that is all done. Okay, so now I've sorted out all the images with the cut lines. I actually removed the border. I thought, what the heck am I doing by cutting a border that's got two straight edges on here? So I removed that. I didn't bother with that one, and I'm just going to print that straight out. But the rest of them, I've sorted everything out. So I've got two sheets, and I'll just zoom that in a bit for you. And before you print and cut, what you need to do is obviously connect your printer, but you need to set registration marks. Now this is so that when the Silhouette prints, well, it's not the actual Silhouette machine, but through the Silhouette software prints on your printer, it puts these marks on the page. Now what this does is that it allows the Silhouette machine to be able to understand where these elements are in relation to the marks, because the marks are here digitally and then they're there when they're printed, so it can calculate, because it has an optical eye in its little blade, so it can see where that is, and then it'll understand where these are, and it is able then to correctly and accurately cut these lines. So what I need to do is obviously then set up these registration marks. It's very, very simple. All you have to do is go over to here, just here. It's been moved around because of the upgrade, and also because I've now got designer edition, so it's confusing me, but it's this one here. And you want registration marks on. I've got Cameo Portrait. Well, I haven't got the portrait, I've got the Cameo, and then this is also for the portrait. So you can see that it sets up these marks. There's also a red box. All your work has to be within this red box, and these hatching lines are to prevent you from putting any of the work also where it needs to print, so it's double protecting itself to make sure. You can adjust these lines to a certain extent if you need a little bit more room or whatever, but I tend to leave them as standard. So that's all you need to do on that. So then we're going to send it to the printer, so we click here, send to printer. Now I just want to make sure that it's going to take from my rear tray, because that's where I've got the paper that I want, so I'm just going to click that and change that alteration. You may or may not need to do that. So then I'm going to click print. Now all it's going to print is the actual design. We're not going to obviously get any red lines. This is just a demonstration of where the cuts are going to be. So that's being sent off to be printed. And then once that's done, I'm going to do exactly the same with the other sheet. And then we'll be coming back to connect to the Silhouette itself and do the actual cutting. Okay, so here are our two printed pages, and you can see they came out really, really nice. And you've got your registration marks, which is great. So that's the first one, and here's our second one. So I'm going to put that on the mat, and then we'll go back to the computer and send to Silhouette. Okay, so I've put the paper on the mat. Now I've actually put the other sheet on, so make sure you pick up the right sheet. So we'll click on that, and now we just want to load the mat, making sure I line up that line. Now, because of the registration marks, you don't have to worry about being hugely precise, because the Silhouette will find the registration marks. Anyway, back to the computer here. We want to do send to Silhouette. It's connecting, and then we want to look at the settings, because we've got cardstock plain, that's fine. Then we'll do send to Silhouette. Okay, so here are all the pieces cut out, and I think they look fantastic. I mean, look at how close a cut that is. There's not a fault on it, and look at this one. And those pieces just came out easily there. These ones mostly came out, but a couple, just of the smaller pieces, I had to pop out. But I mean, trying to cut this by hand, not even going to happen, is it? So they're all cut out. Now, I'd accidentally, the first time I printed it, I accidentally printed it on the paper, and it was really nice, but I thought rather than waste it, I'll cut it out now and I'll keep these pieces. And I think I might actually use some of them on the inside of the card to decorate it. So I've got those as well. So I'm going to pop this card together and I'll come back to you and show you what it looks like when it's... Okay, so I've put all this together now, and I have got some photographs of a couple of the steps, sort of about putting the papers and how I did it, that will go on my blog post sort of mid-process as well, so you can have a look at that, plus a load of finished photographs, much more sort of close-ups and different angles, etc. So if you want to have a look at those, go across to the corresponding blog post. But in the meantime, this is my finished card, and I think it was really nice. I've got a matching envelope as well, so I'm really pleased about that, and I think it looks pretty amazing. I think actually I was quite excited to make this because I thought, now I've got a way of cutting these out on the Knitwit designs I think are gorgeous, and now I've got a way of cutting them out. It's going to look amazing because her work is so beautiful. But I just think it's come out 100 times better than I even envisaged, to be honest. And I like using the different papers and the different elements, and these extra bits of paper ones that I cut out by mistake. If you remember, I said to you, I didn't cut out, I printed them by mistake, and then I just decided to cut them. I used those, a couple of extra flowers here on the front, and then I used some of the pots and things on the inside, which I did flat, and I'll show you that in a minute. And I just think that's really made the inside look as nice, because I think something as elaborate as this, if you opened it up and it was completely plain, I think you'd kind of go, oh, like, oh, I wasn't expecting that. Whereas I think if you open it and it's got all the design on the inside, they might go, oh, like, that's nice, I didn't expect that. In a different kind of, I didn't expect that. Anyway, so back to the front here. As you can see, I've stuck the papers down. So basically I've put a layer across the whole of this card of the cream, the words in the pale cream paper. I've done a green piece and a blue piece, and it just kind of meets in the middle. There's no sort of set size on that. It's just that it's a 1/4 inch down. For first, it's you've got the blue layer of the card base, which is a hunky-dory card. Then I've got the cream, and then I've got this one, and they're each going down a 1/4 inch. And then I took some time, I had to fiddle around to work out exactly where to position this piece. I made it up, this bit with the scalloped edges, and then it's got a cream layer, and then this lovely layer of pattern paper with all the sort of elements on it as part of the paper. And I wanted it to be, I wanted this little girl to be right in the middle of this, so I needed to work out where she wanted to go in order to position this paper. So I had to literally lay this out and work out exactly how much space I needed, and it took a bit of time, but what I did was I laid things out and I got it how I wanted it, and then I photographed it. And the reason I photographed it was because with this paper being so geometric, I could literally look back at my photograph, and I did do this, and go, right, it's 4 lines and then a bit of green before I start that. And that helped me to position it correctly. Once I put that paper down, I put this gorgeous board. This, by the way, this scalloped edge, again, if you want information about all of what these things are, and this die that I've used, all of that will be on the blog post, so just pop in. I don't remember myself now. I took these elements here and I put a little brad, and all I did was I put it through the 2 loops, and I folded
the brad back down on itself. I didn't pop it through this card or anything like that. There's no point, it just makes it harder for yourself. So I literally just folded it down like that and gripped it, and then I put the little bow on top, and it makes it look like it's sort of hanging from there, and I think that looks kind of cute. And on the card here, I actually took this recipe card after you saw it before I cut it out. I took it into Photoshop and I added this text. I found a recipe for treacle tarts actually, and I took it in to that Photoshop and I put this writing on. I tried to find like a font that would be kind of like handwriting, and I put the recipe on and I kind of put a bit there, twisted it very slightly. Now I didn't worry about covering it up, but if you wanted to, and the reason is that the lady's getting this probably knows more recipes than I could ever put on. I'm not trying to do it to show her a recipe, it's just to be a card. So I wasn't worried about covering it up, but if you wanted to send it as with a recipe on it, you could easily just move these, you know, move this down or across and put your flowers down here a bit and just edge the flowers so it's only just going over that writing, and then they would have the recipe as well, which would be kind of fun. Okay, now I will show you the inside. Oops. And I literally used just the scraps of paper that I had and the elements that I cut out in the paper by well, I printed by mistake, etc. So we've got here, I used that lovely paper and I really like that, and I just popped that on the top. Now the Hunky Dory is a really nice cardstock, so I was quite happy to leave this as white there as the border because I think it worked just fine, and it's such a nice pattern paper, and although it's on the front you can't see it as much because it's just peeking out, so I thought I'd use it there. And then on the bottom half here I just took, I had two little edges of these two papers, and if you notice this stripe is actually going the opposite way to this because I didn't have enough to take it the other direction. And then I also had the only other piece of paper I had left, literally actually the only things I had left were a strip of the red, which is this red polka dot here, which I didn't want to use because the red was just an accent colour, and then one of these elements here, which is actually measuring spoons. That's all I had. So as you can see, I've just added these little pieces here, and this time I put the mitten, etc. up the top here. I've added the measuring spoons, I've put the buttons down the bottom, and I think that just, and then having the recipe card, and again I've added the little top to the little tab to the recipe card, and I stamped thanks, and I stamped thanks on there. Now I could have used it and printed it first, but I had a thanks that I really liked in my stamps, so I just used it there, and so I did that, and that's given us a space to write. So you've just got that little space, so you can then make that highly decorated, and I think that looks really nice. I'm really pleased with how that's come out. So as I say, if you want to have a nice good close-up look at some of these things, then do pop onto the blog because I've got close-up photos for you, and you can have a good look at that. But hopefully you've enjoyed this silhouette seminar, and I hope you can see that by taking that simple technique that we learnt last month of a single layer cut, we've now taken that principle and used it, but used it by a single layer cut but with an image inside, and look at what we can achieve by having that. Now next time we're going to be doing multiple layer cut. So for example, if we had a, I don't know, a little teddy bear, and we would have the basis of the teddy bear, then his little paws and his nose and inners of his ears or whatever. So we're going to be building up a picture, an image, using multiple layers, and so I don't know what image we're going to be using, but that's what we're doing next month with our silhouette seminar. So I would look forward to seeing you next time, and thanks so much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed. I hope you've learnt how actually it's really simple to do these single layer cuts using the print and cut feature, and I'd love to hear your comments. I'd love to see any projects that you try doing this technique. Alright, thanks so much for watching. See you next time. Bye.